Hi, everyone. I'm Brian Little with the Southside Trauma Informed Community Network, and we're excited to be a part of a Racial Truth and Reconciliation Week here in Virginia. And today we have Dr. Ram Bhagat with us. Ram Bhagat is an international conflict resolution trainer expert in culturally responsiveness, in culturally responsive circles. He's a trauma healing and restorative justice practices manager guru. He is currently the manager of the school culture and climate strategy for Richmond City Public Schools. And I've known Ram, for several years with Drums No Guns, and I know how he works with communities of color and how he helps particularly African American boys find themselves through drumming and through spiritual music. So I'm excited about today's program. I am excited about seeing this unfold before my eyes. So Chloe, I'll let you and Ram take it away.
Thank you, Brian.
Well, I'll just introduce myself. Hi, everyone. I'm Chloe Edwards with Voices for Virginia's Children, and I'm excited to welcome everyone to Virginia's first ever Racial Truth and Reconciliation Week. The Southside Trauma Informed Community Network has been a real influence in all that this week embodies as far as the mission and goals. Brian, I thank you for helping us construct the idea and vision for this week. And Ram, I'm thankful for the work that you do in making the trauma-informed care field more diverse and inclusive. I'll go ahead and pass you the mic, Ram, to go ahead and introduce everyone to yourself outside of what Brian said and the work that you do, and go ahead and launch this our Tuesday for Racial Truth and Reconciliation Week. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. And my name is Ram Bhagat, and I'm here with Tracy Mahalakshmi Bhagat, my wife, and we both are yoga practitioners. So what we'll be sharing today is a sequence, or maybe a series of yoga poses that have been passed forward to me as techniques to help build resilience and build immunity, especially in the times that we're facing right now. And before I get into talking a little bit about yoga as it relates to racial truth, and what's the title again?
Racial Truth and Reconciliation.
That's what I was going to say. Racial Truth and Reconciliation. I'd like to, if it's okay, ask you a couple of questions and ask Brian some questions too about just the context of this week and how you see it fitting into this month, Black August, and into the need and effort to help build resilience within the community. So how did this originate, this idea of Racial Truth and Reconciliation Week come about?
Yeah, that's a great question. When, and Brian, feel free to chime in, when COVID-19 started, we all had to shift the work that we do because we noticed further exacerbated conditions around physical health, social, emotional health, etc., declining even more, communities needing even more than what they needed before, and local communities working together to meet needs through mutual aid, areas that where there is a gap in public funding. And so, of course, it reached mainstream attention that COVID-19 was disproportionately impacting Black and Brown communities. We heard the word racism in national mainstream media, things that, wouldn't have naturally been in the media, but it depicted Black and Brown communities in a disparaged light. And of course that exists because of slavery and because of oppression, but people weren't quite talking about the resilience of Black and Brown communities. I do want to acknowledge that Black and Brown communities are tired of being resilient, but we know that we have to be. And so with Racial Truth and Reconciliation Week, I started off with a temperature check. We have 26 trauma-informed community networks across the state of Virginia, but only 5 are led by people of color. And the Southside Trauma Informed Community Network is one of those. They're featured on our website. So we all met, and we knew that we wanted to respond to COVID-19 as well as the racial re-traumatization of the resurfacing of mainstream attention on police brutality and Black Lives Matter. And we felt the need to do something as people of color. And so Brian said, why don't we do something similar to Resilience Week, which was in May? But we recognize that there's a discomfort with cultural, racial, historical trauma. And so we wanted to just focus on those concepts. So the mission of the week is to empower the voices and experiences of marginalized communities in acknowledgement of truth, to promote healing, reconciliation, and justice. We have our goals outlined on the website, which were created through a conversation amongst myself and the Trauma Informed Community Networks of Color. And this is how this was born. We didn't imagine it would grow into a movement and a week-long conference, which is what it's turned into. But I'll hand the mic off to you, Brian, to add on.
Thank you, Chloe, particularly for your work and for your insight in helping to bring this forward. It has been kind of a reality check for us all across America. Rom, to put it quite bluntly, our families are hurting. Our communities are seeing images of negativity all the time. And so unfortunately, what happens is people kind of, excuse me, 1 second, because my camera is acting like it wants to cut off. People find themselves, in a place where they are hurting, they're needing healing.
Did we lose him?
Yeah, we lost Brian. So that's really powerful, and I mean, I think that's really interesting that the Trauma Informed Community Network is reflective of the disparities also within healthcare, within education, and I like what you said about us in terms of always having to kind of struggle in order to coexist in this space. Mm-hmm. And it makes me think more in terms of creating an attitude of thriving. You know how like when people say, how are you doing it? And sometimes you say, oh, I'm struggling, or people say I'm struggling. And some of the work that I've been doing over the past couple of years has really been focusing in on changing or reframing that to getting more into a thriving mentality. So I started practicing yoga when I was in college, like in the early 70s. I started exploring like Eastern philosophy when I was I think a senior in high school. And I knew that I wanted to learn yoga. I wanted to study yoga. And so, you know how sometimes you'll like put an idea or plant a seed that's like a dream and then it actually happens? One of the things that I was really contemplating back then was finding like a true yoga master to be my teacher or to be my guru. And so I was growing up in New Haven, Connecticut, and I decided to go to Virginia State University and HBCU. And one day I was walking on campus and I saw this flyer talking about yoga classes. I said, okay, I got to go check this yoga class out. So I went to check out this yoga class, and one of the science professors was teaching the yoga class, a microbiology professor. And just to make a long story short, started taking classes with him, went through a lot of ups and downs, and 45 years later, I'm still studying yoga with Dr. Janeshwar Upadhyay, who's a retired professor of microbiology from Virginia State University. And about 2 weeks ago, he posted a series of yoga breathing techniques and yoga postures or yoga exercises to help strengthen, build immunity in this pandemic. One of the things that I see happening, at least it was happening to me too, is being in isolation and having a social distance, wear a mask, dealing with all these restrictions. I noticed that I was starting to feel more anxious, mildly depressed, and I wasn't really doing my practices the way that I should have, where wake up every day, shower, practice for at least 30 minutes, then go on with my day. So I started practicing these 5 yoga exercises, and I mean, it's just been recently, so I can't really say that I've noticed this tremendous change, but I can say that in the past when I have been really committed to practicing every single day, I start to notice these subtle changes in my energy level, the way I feel, my mental state, my emotional state. And then when I continue to practice on a regular basis, then I don't get sick, you know, just on the physical level, but things just seem to fall in place. So I'm not going to pretend like these 5 yoga poses that we're going to teach are going to be like a vaccine to COVID-19. But what I will say is that practicing yoga with intentionality, with an understanding of like the philosophical roots of it and the spiritual roots of it, adds more power to the practice in based on my experience. And so in addition to having like 4 decades of a yoga lifestyle, I've also went on to study microbiology with Dr. Upadhyay and taught science for a long time. But what I find with yoga is that like now it's so much more popular than it was when I first started practicing. Like there are yoga studios everywhere, there are yoga practices everywhere. There are teachers, you know, like all over. That the essence of yoga is a practice that's built around wanting liberation for yourself and for your community, and that the word yoga itself means union of the mind, body, and soul with the supreme, and that the goal of yoga is really to be free. So to be free of disease, to be free of unhappiness, to be free of sadness, to be free of doubt, insecurities. But it's a practice.
Free of mind stuff.
Free of like the mind being controlled, like the mind being controlled. So and it only requires a few, like 10, 15, 20 minutes a day. So the practices that we're going to go through are just like some standard yoga practices and the breathing techniques. I think it's worth emphasizing that it's the breathing exercises, the breathing techniques that are really the anchor for building immunity and for developing a calm and steady mind. So I want to introduce Mahalakshmi. We're going to start off with a series of standing poses. The first pose most people are probably familiar with is called the sun salutation. It's a series of 12 different steps. I mean, if you want to participate, you can participate also. If you want to watch and maybe do it at another time, that's fine too. When we get to the breathing exercises, it'll be great to have everyone participate. And if possible, I don't know what people's circumstances are, but if possible, it would be great for people to open up their screen so I can actually like observe you doing the breathing exercises. But of course, it's totally up to you. So we're going to first start off with the sun salutation. And the sun salutation is such a phenomenal exercise because it consists of 12 different steps, and each step helps to warm up and make the spine flexible, which is really important for our overall health. So let's go ahead and go through this.
Okay.
So this, yeah. All right, so it doesn't seem like you'll be able to see her,
I can say
her
this.
feet, but that. So why don't we don't really have a large group. So can we take like maybe a minute for people to introduce themselves and just say where you're calling from? So Donna, can you hear me?
Yes, good morning.
Hi,
My
Donna.
name is
Donna,
Hi.
where are you calling from?
Well, I'm a community outreach specialist for Magellan Complete Care of Virginia, and I am in my home right now.
Okay. Is it Leanne?
Yes, it is.
How are you, Leanne?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great.
Good. I'm with United Way of Greater Richmond and Petersburg and the Petersburg City and Schools Partnership, and I am also calling from my home today.
Okay. And Geraldine? Did I say that right?
Yes. I'm Geraldine, and I work with Bon Secours Family Focus, and I am also working from home.
Okay. And Rashida, Rashida said her mic's not working properly. Rashida, where are you calling from? She's going to put that in the chat. While she's putting that in the chat, let's go to Rebecca. Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
Hi, I'm well. I am with Catholic Charities Foster Care, also calling in from home.
All right. Jennifer?
Oh, my mom, she ran into the bathroom real quick. This is Levi, but she is coming back right now, actually, at the moment. So I'll let her introduce herself. Oh, they wanted you to introduce yourself.
Hey, Hi, Jennifer. How
Hi,
you doing?
how is everybody?
Good.
This is Jennifer Murphy James.
And where are you calling from today, Jennifer?
Healthy Start, Loving Steps. I work with Crater Health District.
Okay.
With the Start Loving Steps, we're a home visiting program.
Nice. So Rashida's calling. She's from social services, and I think she's calling from her office. I'm not sure, but she works with social services. And we met Brian and we met Chloe. So Mahalakshmi, we're gonna do these poses, and I just want to say that in terms of the foundation that Chloe laid out and that Brian laid out, I think yoga is one of the most potent tools that we can use to help address some of the disparities in terms of health in our community, and also to provide our community with access to a system, a healing system that's an indigenous healing system, and that maybe a lot of people might not identify with because of lack of accessibility. In other words, the data shows that the majority of practitioners of yoga or in yoga studios are upper middle class women, white women, and maybe this can be a first step in terms of bringing yoga practices to the community. And then Beth, she's a yoga teacher calling from home. She's sheltering in place. Hi, I don't see Beth. Hi, Beth, nice to see you. So we're going to start off with the sun salutation. And do you want me to describe it, or do you want to describe
Sure, you can.
it? Okay. So I'm going to slide back over here. So you'll hear my voice, but you won't see me in the frame. So as I was saying, sun salutation is a 12 part series. It starts off usually centering with the feet together, hands by your side. Then you bring your palms in front of the chest, noticing your breathing, centering your breathing, and then you slowly lift your hands up over your head and bend back as far as you comfortably can. Remember, this is helping to warm the spine up. Then exhaling, bending forward at the waist, reaching down towards the feet. And there are many variations with what you do with the hands, but then the next is bring your head to the knee. Yes, then bending the right knee and sliding the left foot backwards. So in this position, resting the torso and the right side of the intestines on the thigh. And some people bring the knee down, some people don't. So this is the third pose. Then we go into the plank, I think. Is that what you do?
Yeah. Or you can do, you could also take this time to stretch out the back with cat-cow.
Okay, so we're going to just keep it basic.
Okay.
Then bringing the knees down and the chest and the forehead. And then straightening the body out and going into an upward bend.
Can they see me? I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see her. Okay, there we go. And then into downward dog. I know we have a yoga teacher out there. And so this is, it's like a good overall stretch, and it's done in the morning. It's done anytime really, but as the name implies, it's done to greet the sun. And then bringing the left knee up towards the chest. Yeah, and hands, the foot in between the hands. You can place your right knee on the floor if that's available to you. And then you can also extend the neck back if you like. And then pressing both palms against the floor for support, bringing the other foot next to the right foot next to the left foot. Bring your head towards the knee. And then on the inhale, bringing the arms up by the ears. And then reaching up towards the ceiling, bending back as far as we comfortably can. And then bring the hands in towards the chest. Taking a deep breath, exhaling through the mouth. Allowing that circulation to flow through the body. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so that, I mean, for some people, that's probably not new. How many of you have done sun salutation before? You could put it in the chat if you want, if you've practiced that. Leanne Little said yes. Beth said yes. Rashida, yes. So the next pose that we want to do from time to time, trying to practice yoga more for self-care. All right, we want to do the tree pose, and the tree pose is a good pose for balance and strengthening of the ankles. There's a couple of ways to do it. So in this case, Mahalakshmi is going to bring her left foot into her inner thigh, placing the palms in front of the chest, relaxing the elbows and the shoulders, and perhaps finding a spot in the room to focus her attention on. And then, as you can see, she's doing a more advanced version of the tree where she's lifting the arms up, and her balance is being strengthened on the right leg. So this is the tree pose. And then in yoga, we balance out the positions by alternating. So if we do something on one side, then we alternate and do it on the other side.
I have an injury on this foot, so if I'm like, my ear, my heel.
So it's important to acknowledge your limitations, and it's not a competition. So again, the bottom of the foot is pressing up against the inner thigh, and the balance is on the other foot, the left foot this time, and then hands up overhead, and then exhaling, bringing the hands back down. All right, so that's two poses. That's sun salutation, which I said earlier is a series of 12 positions, and then the tree pose. Next, we're going to do warrior one. You want to go ahead and take them through warrior one?
Sure. So with warrior one, we're gonna stand at the edge of our mat, and then I'm just gonna step back with my left foot, keeping the hips squared to the front. Just nice inhale, bring the arms forward. I'm gonna turn out the toes of my left foot so I can get a little more grounded. Right knee stays behind the toes, and so the knee is in alignment with the ankle. Got a nice stretch here, leaning into my front knee. And again, hips are square, arms are up. And I'm going to look up at the ceiling or look up at my hands. Continue breathing, never hold your breath. And maybe as you exhale, you can go maybe deeper into the pose, but again, keeping the front knee behind the toes of the right foot. And then from warrior one, we can go into warrior two. And just bringing your right arm forward, left arm back. Again, putting your weight into the right thigh, right knee, but keeping the knee behind the toes. And then you're opening up the chest, opening up your breathing. And then bringing it back. I like to windmill around, step back right, go back into plank, and then from plank down dog, you have to move that a little. And then from down dog, just step forward left, step forward right, and I'm back. And so if we were to do the same thing, even it out, step back right. Again, hips are square, turn out the toes of the right foot, arms overhead, looking up at my palms or the ceiling. I like to do about 3 breaths here, inhaling through my nose. Exhaling out of my nose. And then when I'm feeling nice and grounded and open, turn out the toes of the right foot more, leaning forward into the left thigh, knee is bent, and keeping the knee behind the toes. And we're in warrior two. Windmill it around, step back left, and go into a vinyasa. Step forward left, step forward right. Nice exhale here. And inhale, come up.
Thank you. So, awesome. And the next two poses, they complement each other. And I think that these two poses are vital in terms of helping to regulate metabolism, and also helping to build resistance. The first one is called the shoulder stand, and the pose that complements the shoulder stand is the fist pose. So with the shoulder stand, you're going to lie flat on your back.
Can you see? Oh, yeah.
And then you can press against the floor with your elbows, bringing your knees towards your chest. and then pressing against the floor with your elbows, lift your lower body up over the mat, bringing your feet slightly over, and then lifting the legs up towards the ceiling, supporting your lower back with your fingers pointing in towards each other like this, and your chin pressed against the chest. So this inverted pose allows circulation to flow back towards the heart, and then also helps to activate some of the glands, especially the thyroid gland in the throat. So that blood flow is being compressed right in the throat, stimulating that thyroid. Also giving the body a chance to work with gravity, the lower extremities to work, the legs to work with gravity instead of against gravity. And in the beginning, maybe hold it for about maybe 20 seconds, 30 seconds. And just feel yourself kind of locked in and resting in this pose, so to speak. It's called the mother of poses. And then when you come out, bring your legs down, over, slowly release the hands and bring your back down to the mat, vertebrae by vertebrae. Bring the feet over, placing them on the mat. And then we go into the fish pose. The fish pose complements the shoulder stand. You bring your elbows against the floor, bring your chest up towards the ceiling, arch your head back, and rest on the top of your head. I think this is a very important pose in the time that we find ourselves, because one thing you'll notice is expanding the chest wide. It's also opening up the neck now so that all of the activation that took place in the shoulder stand, now those secretions can get in, those healthy chemicals can get into the bloodstream. And then it also expands the chest wide so that these deep breaths are able to like really flow into the lungs. The elbows are pressed against the floor. The top of the head is serving as a kind of an anchor point on the mat, and then the hips and the legs. And so then when you come out of this pose, you're going to press the elbows against the floor, lift the body up again, look towards your feet, and then slowly bring the body down on the mat and give yourself a few seconds to just allow the body to come back to equilibrium.
Sometimes if you have back issues, this is really good to do, to stretch out the lower back. If you felt any tension during the shoulder stand or fish pose.
So then you can come to a seated position. Great. All right. If there are, is this a level one? Yeah, this is more like a level one. These poses would be in a level one class. Are there any other questions that you want to throw into the chat? So there are 3 basic breathing techniques that we would like to go through. And the first one is just deep breathing. It's 3-part breathing. And the breathing exercises, I think, are really important because it helps with coordinating the energy in the body. And it also helps with our ability to calm our minds and to kind of balance out our emotions. So the first part, you can call it almost like the baby breath or the 3-part breath. And the anatomy of it is that basically we have this muscle right here, the diaphragm, that separates the lungs from the abdomen, or separates the organs in the chest from the organs in the abdomen. When we expand our diaphragm or push our belly out, that gives the lungs more space to fill up with air. So this 3-part inhalation is one, it's like a balloon almost. It's like you inhale and you expand the abdomen out. Then you fill the lungs like you're filling up a balloon, and then you fill it all the way up to the top. When you fill it all the way up to the top, the clavicles or the collarbones are rising. And then in the reverse, it's like letting the air out of a balloon. The air comes out of the top first, then the lungs, and then the abdomen. So when we put all of that together, it's expanding the abdomen out, filling up the chest, and expanding the collarbone. So it's all the way filled. Then when we start to exhale, we bring the collarbone down, we deflate the lungs, then we squeeze the abdomen towards our back, so the navel towards the spine, so that all of that carbon dioxide is exhaled. So when you put it all together, it's a 1, 2, 3 rhythmic flow. So inhaling, abdomen out, expanding the lungs or chest cavity, lifting the clavicles, exhaling, squeezing the air from the clavicle or upper lungs, from the chest, and then from the lower part of the balloon, bringing the navel towards the spine and forcing the last part of the exhalation out. So let's try that together, and just do it at your own pace. So inhaling, exhaling, inhaling abdomen out, expanding the chest, lifting the collarbone, exhaling, lowering the collarbone, pulling the chest in, squeezing the navel towards the spine. Let's do that one more time. Then the second pranayama, the second yogic breathing exercise, is called alternate nostril breathing. And this you'll see can have lots of different effects. So really the important thing is to kind of look at yourself as a human laboratory and to see what kind of effect it has on you. So kind of do a scan of your body before, then a scan after. You might not notice anything the first time. It might take a few attempts before you start to notice anything. And so basically it's inhaling through one nostril and exhaling through the other nostril, inhaling through the other nostril and exhaling through the nostril you started off with. And people use their fingers in different ways. So let's say let's just start with the right hand.
Do you do this way?
I'm going to do it with the
Pinky and thumb.
yeah.
I mean, index and thumb. Okay.
Yeah, I'm going to do it with I'm going to do it with the ring finger and the
Oh, okay.
all right, so
Nice.
the thumb then becomes what we use on our right. And then some people will use different things. It depends on you. What I basically do, I haven't been convinced to simplify it yet. What I basically do is I use my ring finger and my pinky, my ring finger, and my pinky to squeeze my left nostril. So, let's inhale. First, inhale through the right. Well, first hold the left with the squeeze the left nostril, and then inhale through the right. Hold both. Release the left and exhale through the left. Keep the thumb on the right and just inhale through your left. Squeeze both. Release and exhale through the right. Again, starting inhaling through the right. Hold. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Hold both. Release the right. Exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Hold both. Release the left and exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Squeeze both nostrils. Release the right. Exhale through the right. Inhale into the right nostril. Then hold both. Release the left and exhale through the left. Inhale into the left. Hold both. Release the right. Exhale to the right. And then do 1 or 2 more rounds at your own pace. And then take 1 complete deep breath through both nostrils. And then when you're ready, open your eyes if they were closed. And I think we'll stop there, Brian. I was going to show the corpse, the Savasana, deep relaxation. That's people's favorites. That's really good for rejuvenation because it allows the body to really regenerate itself, rejuvenate itself. Sometimes people say it's like in 15 minutes, like getting 8 hours of sleep. I don't know about that. What do you think?
Oh, I think so.
Okay.
A lot of my students feel like it's like the best part of the class.
Definitely the best part of the class.
So the 45 minutes before that, they could care less. The last 15 minutes, they love that part.
And then there's also the Kalabati or the bellows breathing. It's a little more tricky to show, but those are 2 that we would add to. The blocks, we use different, what do you call them, accessories, right? Different accessories to accommodate people's unique challenges. So we might use the block when doing, you could do warrior. using the block too. So why don't we open it up for a little more dialogue right now about maybe how you feel right now, and then also where yoga along with other practices could be a way to promote a sense of well-being during this time of high stress, social toxic stress, and other things that are challenging our equilibrium and our balance right now.
Hey, Ram,
Yes.
I want to also add to that your work with the school system, because
Okay.
what we've just experienced, I know you're doing some of this in the classroom with youth. And I kind of want to also make sure we talk about that and how you use yoga to de-escalate, and how you use yoga to self-regulate. And I know you do, it's probably a whole nother class on that, but if you could just touch on some of those points.
Yeah. Yeah, let's touch on, so my role as manager for school culture and climate is centered around trauma responsive practices. Like, we started off focusing on trauma informed care, and we've evolved, I think, to expanding our approach to being trauma responsive, and then maybe ultimately it'll get to the point where it will be trauma sensitive practices throughout the schools. But right now it's also based on restorative practices. And early on in the work, I started to see the connection between mindfulness and trauma responsive and restorative practices, and that mindfulness is kind of the bridge between those two, because it provides the students, teachers, administrators, families with a tangible practice and a tool that they can use to engage in self-awareness, self-management, and that could lead to de-escalation, that could lead to relationship building, responsible decision making, and so forth. And so the mindfulness practices, the yoga practices, the breathing practices, the different positions actually have a physiological effect. They actually allow people to be able to change their state. Like, if they're if they're like really excited and they practice maybe beforehand, then they could go into a particular space in the room or a particular space in the building and have someone there to help them to get recentered. And it's based on some interesting studies that have been done to show yoga and mindfulness are really powerful tools, especially, well, I think in any kind of school setting, and definitely like in urban school settings as well. So the research supports it, the empirical evidence, like the day-to-day, what we see, and how it connects with students who, once they know that it's available to them, they start seeking it out. So right now, it's more or less, no, it's more, not less. It's more trying to figure out the best way to make it school-wide, like starting classroom, school-wide, and then division-wide. And that's where we are right now in terms of, like, it's more challenging too because we're doing it virtually, but how to create classrooms where relationships, healthy relationships, are key factors in terms of the learning experience, so that academics could soar, so attendance will increase. So behavioral disturbances will decrease. And it's like making a culture shift that's beneficial to the health of a dynamic organization, and that's part of the challenge, and that's part of the reward also. And just like on a more direct note, we were definitely seeing the program starting to, like, take off right before we had to shut down the schools. And now that's interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how it evolves within a virtual environment. But honestly, I'm looking forward to getting back into the buildings, getting back into like interact. I'm sure everybody is, or a lot of people are interacting with the students so that we can like be in the same physical space during the practices.
Thank you for sharing.
Anybody else have a question? Chloe, you have a question?
And so through, what kind of innovative projects have you seen across the state around promoting socio-emotional health with students? We'll need to do that more virtually with some schools not reopening, some not sure that they're reopening, but what are ways that we can still use trauma-informed care best practices through virtual learning?
I mean, I've seen some innovative ways to do circle processes online using, you know, like when you're talking and your little cell lights up with that. Like most of the time, it seems like it's kind of like a yellow light around it. I've seen like people use that as the talking piece. And then also like creating kind of this sense of a circle by having a pre-set order so that you constantly flow in that order. And then when you see the light change, that's like passing the talking piece. And then like I've seen using like the sound bowls, the sound spas. I've seen people doing that, not so much in the schools, but like in the community. I've seen a lot of stuff around movement, embodied movement. That's I think has a lot of potential for dealing with, you know, how trauma gets lodged into the trauma. The trauma energy gets locked in and lodged into the nervous system and into the muscles and the cells. So I've seen some trauma trauma healing practitioners use movement and dance and drumming. And then, you know, like using mindfulness and meditation. I've seen that too with not so much with students yet, but more so with staff and with parents. Mm-hmm. And I've been on some calls where they've been like interracial, where there's been discussions around like how to deal with systemic racism. And then I've been in some groups that are like some affinity groups where you know, different mindfulness practices like song or, you know, some culturally responsive mindfulness practices are used in racial affinity groups. So I've seen that too. I mean, I'm kind of anxious and excited at the same time to see how this is going to work, because we definitely have the commitment in RPS to embedding this into our culture. It's just how are we going to facilitate it? You know, like some of the advantages of the online platform are also disadvantages. Like you could have a lot of people, but then when you have a lot of people, it's hard to like do small. You know, it's hard to do more intimate kind of work. So I think this year, at least until January, I think these next 6 months will provide us with a lot of challenges to learn how to communicate and how to communicate the message and how to deliver the practices so that our teachers and our administrators can integrate them into academics. Because actually, we're more adamant this year than I've seen in the past about not separating them, but looking at relationship building as the foundation for rigorous instruction. So it's kind of uncharted waters. So I've seen a lot of different things that are working, but I haven't really seen that one thing that's just like, oh my God, we've got to do that.
To that end, Ram, I know a lot of people, and maybe some on this call, are looking for a system that allows for that progress that you feel when you're doing this to be logged in a way that we can show people that we're moving forward. You mentioned a lot of different resources and a lot of different places that you've been. In terms of a systematic approach that the school system has bought into to allow you to create the position that you now have with the public school system, what was the thing that sold them on actually investing dollars, staff, and space and time to really get into the hearts and minds of our children? Just curious. From an educational point of view.
I think the first thing that systems brought into was trauma-informed care. Like that was the foundation. There was like enormous amount of research to show the impact of trauma on learning, and then the next buy-in was with restorative justice. Even though that was kind of a harder, a harder mind shift because it means so many different things to so many different people, but fundamentally, it's around equity and justice in ensuring that all students have equitable and just learning environments. So I think that was the second thing. And then out of that, it was relationships. That wasn't a new thing in schools, like relationships, but it just took it to a different level of like how important, and even now more than ever, building and establishing these nurturing, healthy relationships so that there's respect, dignity, and mutual concern within a live space and also within the virtual space. And then the hardest thing at first to sell was like this connection with mindfulness. Like that wasn't readily accepted at first, but the more research I showed, the more resources that I brought in to show the connection, that has now become, I think, the pivot point. That mindfulness, and I call it mindfulness-based restorative practices, that mindfulness-based restorative practices are going to be the turning point.
Thank you for sharing that. Are there one or two go-to places that if people want to learn either more about the yoga or more about the mindfulness in terms of how they can incorporate and employ this in their workplaces of work or their home? Are there a couple of resources you'd like to give us as well?
Yes, Rashida said, I feel very calm and relaxed. It's not a normal calm. Something shifted in my head and my back is less tense. Thank you, Rashida. Thank you.
Yes.
All right. I mean, there are lots of different resources. I'm going to tell you, like for me, one of the main things I've been trying to do is kind of systemize or make sure like we're all on the same page in RPS. So my reference and my collaborators are the Holistic Life Foundation from Baltimore, Maryland, because they have extensive background doing this work in Baltimore public schools. So I would go to the Holistic Life Foundation website as a reference and a resource. And I just finished doing this training with the Inward Bound Mindfulness Education, IBME, Inward Bound Mindfulness Education. And I think that they're amazing. They do amazing work with mindfulness for youth. And then in Richmond, we have the Integral Yoga Center. There are a lot of yoga centers. I'm collaborating with the Inner Work Center. Mahalakshmi, she teaches yoga classes. You can go to my website, rambhagat.com, to get in touch with us. It's almost finished. I mean, you can reach me there. So I'd say Holistic Life Foundation, Inner Work Center, Integral Yoga, rambhagat.com. If you hit me up there, I can pass that information on to Mahalakshmi too. And so I appreciate the time with you. I know we're like at around 11. I like to close though with maybe each person putting one word in the chat to describe how they're feeling right now. Wow. Alive, calm, happy, peaceful, slow down, renewed in a good way, mindful. So I mean, our bodies tell us, and I mean, sometimes we feel like we should probably do more. Like I feel like I should do more, but I get support and strength when I do it collectively. And so maybe if there's ways for, people to connect and do the practices with others, that could be helpful. But it still does come down to like our own individual commitment to our own self-care. But in terms of the topic, Chloe, this is something I feel like is important to promote and spread throughout the community in a way that is like accessible and relatable. So thank you.
Thank you
for having me.
Thank you for having us and for participating in Racial Truth and Reconciliation Week. We have a lot more planned for everyone, so I just recommend everyone visit our event calendar. There's something for everyone, from children's book readings to yoga to community chats that highlight important topics around inequities, blogs to resources to more. We're thankful to also have some public representatives represented through our Politician and Advocate Give Us the Mic series. And make sure you click on our events, because we have a Q&A with the Virginia Legislative Black Caucus coming up, as well as some other surprises that I'll keep everyone in the loop for throughout the week. So,
and I don't think we had this finalized when the calendar went out, but this Thursday we have a Civic Voice Town Hall at 3:30, RP, Richmond Public Schools, featuring Dr. Maisha Akbar, author of Urban Trauma, The Legacy of Racism. And her new book just came out, Beyond Ally, The Pursuit for Racial Justice. So she's going to be moderating a panel of community members. Part of the focus is going to be around like health disparities, and then also how it impacts our school systems and community. And that will be at 3:30 on Thursday, this Thursday, August 6th. You can just go to our Facebook page. It's going to be live streamed on Facebook.
great. And Ram, how can everyone get in touch with you if they need to?
Let me put that in here.
You go ahead and say it out loud for our Facebook followers as well.
Ram, R-A-M, Bhagat, BHAGAT.com. So you can just go there and then just leave me a message on how to get in touch with you.
Awesome. Everyone else, you can visit vakids.org, click on the Racial Truth and Reconciliation Week slider, our events page, or go through our blogs. And also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/racial truth. Thank you for joining us today.
And I just got to say, you all are doing some serious work down in Southside, Virginia. We got to catch up with you all.
Hey, this is the village, man. We're making it happen.
Yes, sir.
This is how it happens.
Yeah, you've been doing some great stuff, Brian. And Chloe's good. I'm glad you're doing what you're doing too.
Let's stay connected, and we'll have you back. And one of our sticking meetings, we want to encourage everybody to check out www.yourunitedway.org and follow us to the Petersburg page for Southside Trauma Informed Community Network. And we meet twice a month, and so this was one of our community check-ins today. So thank you, Chloe, for letting us share the platform with you. And everybody have a great day.
Bye.
All right, take care, everybody.